What we have here, folks, is a variation on, we have no evidence, but the seriousness of the charge demands an investigation. And we first heard that, or I first became familiar with it, during the Clarence Thomas, Anita Hill. Actually, no. I first heard about it when they alleged that George H.W. Bush flew on an SR-71 in the summer of 1980 to meet with the Iranians in Paris to arrange for the hostages to remain captive until after the election to facilitate the election of Reagan. Gary Sick, a University of Columbia professor, wrote an entire book on this. It was a total lie. It was total fake. It was total made up. And Tom Foley, the Speaker of the House, Democrat at times, said, well, the seriousness of this charge, even though there's no evidence, mandates that we conduct an investigation. And it's the same thing here. This is a variation of that. Here's what is going on, and this is, I think, key to understanding this. Members of the establishment, and they run the gamut from members of the intelligence community to elected officials to key positions in various bureaucracies, the media. Establishment's made up of a lot of people, and there's a pecking order, and there is a rule book, and there is a style sheet, and there is a modus operandi for everybody in it. And systems have evolved and been built up over years and years and years and years and years as to how this establishment operates and how you avoid the pitfalls in it and so forth. And it has evolved and been tailored to be effective specifically against fellow members of the establishment. And it's proved pretty effective. The media, working with whoever source they can find or whatever source they wish to associate with, are used to being able to taking people down or taking people out with simple innuendo, with simple allegation. The Gary Sick example is a glaring example of the effort. It didn't work. It was designed to reelect Jimmy Carter. It didn't work, but it created a cloud over George H.W. Bush that remained forever because the media, once it's out there, it becomes part of the lifetime narrative of the individual, in this case, George H.W. Bush. So it was always remained an unanswered question. Did Bush, because there wasn't any evidence, you see. And since there wasn't any evidence, they couldn't refute it. Wait till you hear what the Daily Beast has done with this story today. Hang on for that. Daily Beast, another left-wing website. In this case, though, they're dealing with somebody that, and they still haven't figured this out, and this is staring them right in the face. Trump is not of their world. Trump is not of their establishment. Trump is not one of them and has not lived his life as one of them, has not tailored the way he's lived his life, the private aspects, the personal and public aspects. He's not tailored any of that for the success or failure routes within the establishment. But the establishment people, the media, they have their ways. And they've been as effective as anything against fellow members of the establishment, usually Republicans. They still haven't figured out who and what they're up against. They continue to try to plug Trump into their systems. And what they are missing is that Trump is of a totally different world. He doesn't enter their world with any fear. He doesn't enter their world with very much respect for them. He doesn't enter their world with any desire to impress them. He doesn't become president with any desire to be accepted among the establishment. He's running for president and won for totally different reasons. And his reasons are specific and rooted to saving and improving the country and not climbing the ladder of success within the establishment and not being accepted as one of those people. And since he's choosing not to play by those rules do not affect him as long as he remains honest and forthright with the people who elected him. As long as he maintains connection with his base, there's not a thing these people are going to be able to do to him. And every attempt they make is only going to strengthen the ties Trump supporters have for and with him. Like this episode. It's not going to lose him any support. It's going to gain him support. And I'll tell you what else it's going to do. It's going to inoculate him from the next charge they try to come up with. Because you can't get much more outrageous than this. And if you're going to hit the king, you better take the king out. In this case, if you're going to hit Trump, you better get rid of him, because if you don't, and they failed here, then the next time they come at him, it's just going to bounce off like a pea shooter up against a battleship. They haven't the slightest idea how to deal with Donald Trump. And you know why? Because they haven't any experience dealing with real people. And by real, I mean people that are not of a phony, narcissistic, cliquish type of existence where success is defined by something that has very little to do with how good you are at something and how much you accomplish. Trump comes from an entirely different world. He comes from a merit-based world. He doesn't come from a PR or buzz world. Well, there's some of that with him, but he's entirely merit-based. His success stories are genuine success stories. They're not lies and spin and PR where people are convinced he's big and successful. He actually has to prove it. It has to be demonstrable. And they don't know how to deal with this. They don't know how to deal with somebody not part of the political establishment world. Stop and think about the examples that I gave you, how they've succeeded with lies and innuendos. Look at what they try to do with Romney. Here comes Harry Reid saying, hey, Romney, my friend of mine said Romney hadn't paid his taxes in 10 years. To this day, people still think Romney might not have paid his taxes. Romney lost the election. Harry Reid says, hey, he lost, didn't he? I don't care if it worked or not. It did work, and I have no regrets about it whatsoever. And Romney was a bully at prep school, and Romney doesn't like animals. He puts them on the roof of a station wagon, a family vehicle. All of this stuff is the same kind of stuff they're trying with Trump, and he's just bouncing off because that's not why he's there. He's not there because he's mastered the ladder of success within the political establishment. He is there because he's precisely not that. And the people in the establishment haven't the slightest idea how to behave in any other way. They are arrogant and condescending, and the establishment is all there is, and anything outside of that, they looked upon with contempt and derision, including Trump, including you, including me. And their arrogance prevents them from actually learning anything about the people like Trump's, in this case, covering him and who he really is. They are totally obsessed with one thing, and that's destroying Trump. They're totally obsessed with taking Trump out. They're obsessed with damaging Trump's reputation, his administration. That's all they care about. That's all that matters. That's how they prove their self-worth. It is how their success is decided and defined as to who they can destroy and who they can build up. But in the past, they haven't needed evidence to accomplish their smears. They were able to smear Clarence Thomas with no evidence whatsoever of sexual harassment against Anita Hill. Look at what they did to Robert Bork. There was not one shred of evidence that Robert Bork was anything other than a fine, upstanding man and a great judge and a great jurist, and they destroyed him with allegation and innuendo. And this is their world and their experience. They're able to do that. They don't need to have evidence. They don't need to have the truth. That is irrelevant. All they need is the seriousness of the charge. And then their brethren elsewhere in the establishment coincide, get in gear, and help conduct the smear by going out and asking, well, where is the evidence that you were in Moscow? And they just never give up. But Trump is a different animal. They don't know how to deal with it, and he's making them look like children. In this press conference today, there was a man in the front row from CNN, a reporter from the front row, and he kept shouting at Trump like a little child. He demanded that Trump take his question. He started shouting at Trump while Trump was answering other questions, and Trump refused to take the question and looked at him and said, no, you're fake news. And that's when I started laughing and applauding here when we were covering this live. So CNN's been called out as fake news because that's what CNN is. CNN is fake news. BuzzFeed is fake news. The thing that is different about this is the intelligence communities. That's what we haven't seen before. We've seen the media behave as they have, but we have not seen the intelligence communities behave. And I tell you, I warned Trump when we first started commenting on the intel community and attacking them. I warned it right here on this program. These are people that can cause you a lot of trouble because they deal in innuendo. They are the only ones who know what they know, and they can tell anybody anything. And they can leak anything they want, and they're kind of like law enforcement. Nobody ever doubts them, even though there's clear reason to doubt them. Weapons of mass destruction, you name it. So, the Daily Beast thing. Let me find this real, because folks, this is classic. You know, I've got two different stacks of this stuff here. If I can't find this real quick, let me take a break. I'll come back and find it, because I tell you what this ultimately is. The Daily Beast runs a story claiming that elements have denied that there's anything to this. And the Daily Beast story says, well, the denial doesn't have much evidence. The denial is rather thin. We're not sure we should believe the denial. It's from the people who are responsible from the story. It's Orwellian is what it is. I will find it with the specifics right after this. We'll be back and continue. Okay, I'm trying to take this complexity and make it as simple as I can so people can get their arms around it. There are two websites involved in this, aside from the intelligence community. One is called 4chan, the numeral 4CHAN. The other is Reddit. They are completely separate entities, completely different websites. They have common users, but they are two different websites. There is a politically incorrect forum on the 4chan website where this kind of stuff starts. These are pranksters and storytellers, and they try to one-up each other with fake news and funny stories and satire and parody. And it is said that this report originated at 4chan and was originally sent. Somebody wrote it up and summarized it and sent it to Rick Wilson, who is a noted anti-Trumper who worked at, I forget who he worked for during the campaign. Wilson then wrote up his own summary of it and gave it to the CIA. The CIA accepted it and began looking into it, and another summary of it was written, and at some point, both Obama and Trump were briefed on it. Now, because of this, because there was an intelligence briefing where both Obama and Trump were told of this story, news media outlets said, well, it's news then, and if Trump's been briefed on it, for crying out loud, we're gonna run with it. BuzzFeed and the CNN figured, hell, we'll run with it. It turns out, no less than NBC is reporting that Trump was not briefed on this salacious series of details, that he was shown this memo, which alleged links between his campaign and Russia. Among the urination on the bed story, there were other examples of Trump pervert-type behavior that would make him subject to blackmail by Putin. They showed this to Trump. They show this to Obama. The news media reads that the CIA briefed Trump and Obama. They figure it's serious news then. But it turns out that Trump was not briefed on it as something that actually happened. It turns out that the CIA gave this to Trump as an example of the kind of disinformation that is out there. They gave it to him as somewhat of an educational thing, as an example of disinformation. They did have a briefing with him, and they showed him this, but they told him it's an example of disinformation. They did not tell him that it was real. If he had been told it was real, and if Obama had been told it was real, believe me, we would have heard about this long before last night. If anything in this had ever been real, and you must understand that journalists from around the world have been chasing down the elements of this intel report for almost a year, and they haven't been able to confirm one thing in it. And that's why it was never used. Now, the Daily Beast example. Headline, 4chan claims it invented the Trump golden showers. The golden shower story is the prostitutes being hired to urinate on the bed in a hotel that Barack and Michelle Obama had slept in a previous visit. As news broke of an unverified document detailing supposed Russian dirt on Trump, including allegations involving urine and prostitutes in Russia, users on the subreddit forum, The Donald, and the 4channel forum, they took a victory lap, not because they found the story funny, but because they claim they planted it as a fake. So people at both Reddit and 4channel are doing happy dances out there because they totally made this up and made the CIA accept it as real and start conducting investigations. Now, the way to translate this is the anti-Trumpists at the Daily Beast want to believe that these unsourced and unverified stories are actually true. But the 4channel people and Reddit people say that they're not true. We made this all up. We can't believe how gullible you people are. I can. I can believe it's all made up, and I can believe they fell for it. This is the establishment. This is how they operate. They hate Trump. They despise Trump. You can't overestimate how much he is hated by official Washington. Folks, you cannot. Then they will not stop trying to destroy him. They will not stop in their efforts to make sure he does not succeed in anything. So the Daily Beast reports here that the 4channel website bragged that they planted this story. They don't like it. And they added, the evidence supporting the denial is very thin. So, mind you here, the evidence of the underlying story is non-existent. There is no evidence to support one shred of this. So in the insane world of the left, the evidence disproving an unproven allegation is subjected to a higher standard of proof than the bogus allegation itself. This is mind-numbingly insane that we find ourselves in the middle of here. Thank God you people have me to explain this and sort it out to you. We'll be back after this. We're going to find out this dossier was generated as part of opposition research by anti-Trump Republicans. A guy named Rick Wilson. Keep that name in mind. I'll tell you what this is, folks. This is the next version of Bill Burkett and phony documents to Dan Rather, to Texas National Guard to get George W. Bush. It's exactly what this is. Back in just a second.